The Inner Circle are the most elite and most secretive forces that the Dark Angel fields, made up of the Deathwing, the Ravenwing Black Knights, the Supreme Grand Master, and all Grand Masters of the Dark Angels and their successors. They represent the most elite and secretive force, made up of only the finest warriors the Dark Angels and their successors have to offer. This is, of course, one of the most fearsome fighting forces the Imperium can field, fielded with the most cold and indefatigable of warriors, mostly fielded in Terminator armor. Today, we are of course covering the Inner Circle Task Force. Hello everybody, my name is Spoons Rattling, and welcome to another video where today we are breaking down this detachment for the Dark Angels. So, first things first is what makes a unit Deathwing. Of course, Azrael, Asmodai, Ezekiel, Lazarus, Belial are all Deathwing units innately. Terminator units gain the Deathwing keyword, veteran units do as well, all Dreadnoughts, all Land Raiders, and all Repulsors also gain it. Though they can't necessarily benefit from the main detachment, this is useful for other things. Of course, this is quite a nice list of units. In terms of their core abilities, the Inner Circle Task Force, in your command phase, you select one of the two buffs. One is Defensive Footing, where you select one objective marker that you control. That marker is your vowed objective. And then you hit or Aggressive Push. Select one or more objectives you do not control. Those become your vowed targets. When a Deathwing infantry unit makes an attack against the enemy on a vowed objective, add 1 to the wound roll. This works at both shooting and in melee. This is very useful and does allow for some other non-Deathwing units to gain it, such as Azrael leading Hellblasters, as it's Deathwing units, not Deathwing models. This is of course very powerful. Terminators love it, as most of their weapons are mid-strength, which benefit the most from +1 to wound, and any ranged firepower they can bring, such as plasma cannons, assault cannons, or cyclone missile launchers, also love the +1 to wound. This is overall a very powerful ability, and makes it very hard for the opponent to consistently hold objectives, especially against those more inclined to their toughness rather than their damage, for example, the Death Guard. This is a very, very powerful ability, and should not be underestimated, though unfortunately it's not very well balanced. The only time I would take Defensive Footing over Aggressive Push is when you own literally every objective, and at that point you've probably already won the game by pretty much tabling your opponent. Let's get into their enhancements from here, and we will sort of explain what I think of them, as they are a bit hit or miss. First up, we have Champion of the Deathwing, which comes in at 15 points. A Deathwing model gains lethal hits in melee if it is in range of your vowed objective. Critical hits are scored on a 5+, very handy for punching up, though not as impactful as it would be in other detachments, as you're already getting +1 to wound. This sort of just doubles down on wounding things above your pay grade for the most part. However, most units will already do that quite efficiently. Eye of the Unseen is 10 points. When you target the bearer's unit with a stratagem, roll a d6 on a 5+, adding 1 to the result if you're in range of a vowed objective, you gain a CP. This is fine enough CP generation, though since Azrael is around it probably won't come into play too often, but could have some uses as points filler or if Azrael gets sniped out by a Vindicare, which is of course not impossible. Singular Will is also very handy, comes in at 20 points. At Deathwing model, of course, you get to pile in and consolidate an additional 3 inches. That's just very useful for getting more of those big bases into melee. It's very useful. I'd highly recommend it on any aggressive ones, but there is one that I'd say is still better. Deathwing Assault comes in at a very pricey 30 points, almost the entire cost of an entire Terminator. You give this to a Deathwing model with Deep Strike, and you can Deep Strike on turn 1. This allows for what I very, very elegantly call a Terminator jump scare, where you can immediately drop a huge deadly unit of Terminators in the midboard on turn 1 and force your opponent to deal with them. I've seen people use this with captains and with chaplains, and I think they both have valid reasons for running them. A chaplain gives you a feel no pain against mortal wounds, as well as, in general, being a little more slanted towards defense rather than damage, but a captain also gives you access to free stratagems, which does have a lot of use in here, as there are some good defensive stratagems. This is overall by far the best enhancement, and I would highly recommend bringing it no matter what. Attaching it probably to Assault Terminators or Deathwing Knights, depending on if you want to run a big unit, Assault Terminators, small unit, Deathwing Knights. Really, this is super powerful. They'll bring some Infiltrators to screen the midboard to make sure you don't get blocked. Now, of course, they have 6 stratagems. We will cover them now. The Inner Circle starts off with the bread and butter Armor of Contempt for 1 CP, reduce incoming AP by 1 against shooting. Very useful. A lot of your units are going to have 2+ saves, so that's very useful. You're going to want to use that very frequently, which is also good because you'll usually be generating a lot of CP with this detachment. The Martial Mastery is 1 CP. In melee, you get to reroll wound rolls of 1, or if you're in range of your vowed target, to reroll all wounds. This pairs immensely well with +1 to wound, as well as a lot of the Terminator datasheets, especially Assault Terminators, as they have devastating wounds, which allows them to tear down just about anything in the game with sheer devastating wound damage. There is Duty Unto Death, which is also 1 CP. You fight on death in a 4+, adding 1 to if you're in range of a vowed target. Useful enough, though I wouldn't say is sort of exemplary, mainly because the Deathwing are already very durable as it is, and the most valuable unit you could use this on, Deathwing Knights, are extremely hard to kill, and I wouldn't be surprised if most units bounce off them. And there's a better durability one that I think you would be sort of better suited for. Actually, never mind. That's only at shooting. Relic Teleportarium, which is quite a mouthful, is 1 CP and allows you to drop in within 3 inches of enemies. Very useful for the objective game. I would say bringing a unit of Vanguard veterans. This could be a great way to get them in close, even though they can't charge. They're the only Deathwing unit with Deep Strike that isn't a massive Terminator unit. There's also Wrath of the Lion, which for 1 CP, after charging, you roll 1d6 for each of your models. On a 4+, you'll deal 1 mortal wound, adding 1 to the result if you're in range of a vowed objective. To a max of 3, this is mainly useful if you desperately need to kill something and it is on low wounds, or you think you just barely won't kill it. Useful against things like knights. Overall, it is a very useful sort of thing to have just in the back pocket. Then Unmatched Fortitude, definitely one of the best stratagems here. 1 CP, when selected as a target for shooting, you get -1 to wound for the rest of the phase. Very big on the already tough Terminators. This is a very useful stratagem. I'd say as a whole, these stratagems were all very good, with Duty Unto Death being sort of situational, but not bad, more so that you probably just won't use it super often. The rest of them are all very useful, and Wrath of the Lion is slightly niche as well. Regardless, that's all the specific rules for the Deathwing Inner Circle Task Force detachment. That's just about it. I have been Spoons Rattling. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Did you find the secret in this video? If you did, comment down below. See ya!